voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just a sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know.
Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I'm falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Oh, I believe.
Welcome to Weslaco High School's Class of 2020 graduation. With Weslaco High School Principal, Dr. David Gamboa. Weslaco ISD Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Priscilla Canales. Weslaco ISD School Board President, Isidoro Nieto. Musical performance and national anthem by Tabitha Vega. Featured students, Student Council President, Mario Trevino. NHS President, Amanda Cabrera. Senior Class President, Angie Escalon. Salutatorian, Mateo Vallejo. Valedictorian, Silvestre Ramirez. And featuring Weslaco High School's Class of 2020. Introducing your Class of 2020 Top 10 for Weslaco East High School. Number 10, Mario Trevino. Number 9, Jaime Vasquez. Number 8, Joel Ramos. Number 7, Kayla Martinez. Number 6, Amanda Cabrera. Number 5, Angie Escalon. Number 4, Cassandra Galnares. Number 3, Victoria Guerrero. Your salutatorian, Mateo Vallejo. And your valedictorian, Silvestre Ramirez. Congratulations from everyone at Weslaco ISD. Now, the national anthem by Weslaco East Senior, Tabitha Vega.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er are the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please welcome Weslaco East High School Principal, Dr. David Gamboa.
Bienvenidos padres, familiares y amigos de la clase de 2020. Tonight, we would like to welcome you to Weslaco East High School's 17th graduation ceremony and proudly recognize the class of 2020. As we celebrate the many successes East has accomplished in academics, the arts, and athletics, we now take pride to include you, class of 2020. As of today, you have contributed to the winning tradition that has been established by the other 16 classes that have come before you. You have officially become part of the rich history and tradition that has been established by the many Wildcats who are representing East throughout Texas, the United States, and the world. Aquí en East, maestros, consejeros, administradores y la comunidad educacional de Weslaco estamos bien orgullosos por representar a East con dignidad y honor. Padres, familiares y amigos, una vez más los felicito y de parte de todos aquí presentes les doy las gracias por el privilegio de haber trabajado con sus hijos. The class of 2020 sets itself apart from the rest as it is laying the path for many generations to come. This class has shown what resilience is all about, as it has never conformed to the typical experience of other graduating classes. From being born during the attacks of September 11th to experiencing COVID-19, this class has shown perseverance, resilience, honor, and grit, all traits that define a Wildcat. This is not how we envisioned your senior year to end. Canceled prom, virtual award ceremonies, and your senior walk were some of the senior activities affected. However, in the midst of this change, you were able to adjust to the remote learning and still meet the academic requirements needed to complete your high school experience. After all these challenges, the class of 2020 has upheld the standard of excellence inherent in the academic programs offered at Weslaco ISD. The class of 2020 includes 28 students graduating with an associate's degree from an Institute of Higher Learning, along with many other students graduating with countless industry certifications and over 3,500 cumulative college hours. So as we acknowledge and recognize your resilience, perseverance, and grit, do not forget that the experiences you have faced have made you stronger and will prepare you to face the challenges of tomorrow. We have come to the part of the graduation ceremony when I, as principal at Weslaco East High School, have the honor to certify that the students here have met all graduation requirements. Dr. Canales and members of the school board, as principal of Weslaco East High School, I hereby certify that the graduates have met the Texas state requirements as well as Weslaco Independent School District credit requirements for their selected graduation plan and are now eligible to receive their high school diploma. Congratulations, class of 2020, you have officially graduated from Weslaco East. In recognition of your new status, I invite all students to move your tassels to the left as we applaud your outstanding efforts and proudly say that you are a Weslaco East graduate.
And now, Weslaco East High School graduation 2020 continues with National Honor Society President Amanda Cabrera.
Good evening. I am Amanda Cabrera, NHS President. Tonight, we celebrate the class of 2020. This ceremony marks the end of 12 years of education, but also the start of the next chapter in our lives. On behalf of the graduating class, I want to take the time to recognize parents, grandparents, and family members that are watching tonight. Without your love and support, this would not have been possible. Enjoy tonight's ceremony.
Please welcome Student Council President Mario Trevino with a special presentation.
Each year, the seniors are asked to select one teacher to be recognized as a senior honorary teacher. Tonight, we recognize Mrs. Wendy Ramos as a senior class honorary teacher for the class of 2020. Mrs. Ramos, your dedication to teaching has been one that many students that have come before me have benefited from, and the knowledge that you have imparted upon your students has been a bridge that will help us connect to our future. Mrs. Ramos, we are glad you portray the qualities of a Wildcat.
We will meet our graduates soon, but first, let's hear from Weslaco ISD Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Priscilla Canales.
On behalf of your entire Weslaco ISD family, I extend a warm welcome to this virtual graduation ceremony, honoring the class of 2020. It is our honor to host this event in celebration of the stellar accomplishments attained by the class of 2020 over the last 4 years. To our parents and families, congratulations and a heartfelt thank you for your unwavering support of your student and Weslaco ISD through the years. A nuestros padres y familias, felicitaciones y sinceras gracias por su apoyo a su estudiante y Weslaco ISD a través de los años. Today's commencement ceremony is unlike any other in the nearly 100-year-old history of Weslaco ISD. Never before has a senior class experienced the ramifications of a global pandemic. First, we closed schools, hoping that a 2 or 3 week closure would thwart the spread of the novel coronavirus. As COVID-19 continued to wreak global havoc and shelter-in-place orders were issued, treasured senior traditions such as prom, ceremonial banquets, and an in-person stadium-filled May graduation ceremony were derailed. As your new superintendent during your freshman year, I had the distinct honor of proudly and astoundingly seeing you grow into the remarkable young women and men you are today. While disappointed and saddened about you having to miss out on so much during your final semester, we, your Board of Trustees, and entire Weslaco ISD family were moved by you, all of you. With confident optimism and sheer determination, you, class of 2020, led the way to making the most out of the situation. Your positivity and fortitude lifted our community. Class of 2020, you are indeed priceless. We thank you for displaying the character and will of champions, humanitarians, and leaders in the face of adversity. We thank you for allowing us to be part of your high school experiences that included many amazing victories in academics, athletics, the arts, CTE, ag, BPA, leadership, and so much more. As you enter the next phases of your lives, we know that your personal dreams and aspirations will become your reality. Today, we are all honored to join you in bidding a final farewell to your public school years. May you forever remember the lessons learned in Weslaco ISD and the united strength you displayed in the spring of 2020. And now in closing, as your very proud superintendent, I offer the following advice. As the years pass by and you experience new chapters in your life, always remember the optimism and fortitude you displayed in your senior year. Use that positivity and determination to help build a better world. When you encounter an obstacle, continue to remain calm and collective and let your creativity and perseverance lead you to a new, better way. Always, always honor where you came from. Your parents, family members, and Weslaco ISD family are golden. They will forever be your biggest admirers and supporters. And finally, take the time to sharpen your saw by reading and reflecting every day so that the you of today continues to be enriched with the power of vicarious and real experiences. We will dearly miss you. Lead your way into the future, make our world a better place, and forever live your lives Weslaco ISD strong. God bless.
Please welcome Weslaco ISD School Board President Isidoro Nieto.
Graduates of 2020, parents, family members, friends, and distinguished guests. It is a great honor and pleasure to come before you representing the Weslaco ISD Board of Trustees to celebrate the class of 2020. Graduates, your senior year, 2020, will definitely be known as one of the most challenging. You, together with the whole world, have had to conform to major changes in how we conduct our daily lives just to secure our safety and welfare. The national quarantine of 2020 robbed you of the traditional senior year activities. However, we come to you today using this non-traditional method to celebrate your graduation virtually to let you know that even with the national quarantine in place, your educational accomplishments have not gone unnoticed. Remember, the culminating event of high school graduation is not just about your senior year. It represents your entire K through 12 education. Although your senior year was interrupted with a national crisis, causing schools to close, the WISD Board of Trustees together with the WISD administration, want to provide you an opportunity to celebrate your high school graduation while also abiding by the recommended social distancing and shelter-in-place practices set forth by the Center for Disease Control. Therefore, as I come before you using this virtual platform, I offer you this quote by Joshua J. Marine. Challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. You have had to face a sudden and unexpected challenge this year. Overcoming it will mostly certainly shape your life. Don't allow obstacles to derail you from your path. You have a life journey ahead of you, and how you choose to continue will shape you into the person you are to become. You have choices, and whether you choose a career in one of the 4 branches of the military, college, trade school, or becoming a member of the workforce, do your best to be all that you can be. You deserve nothing less. I would like to congratulate you on your high school graduation. Whatever you decide, set life goals and go the distance. Go out and conquer the world, even amidst the challenges the world is currently facing. Reach for the stars, but never, ever forget your foundation and your family. I would also like to take a minute to congratulate your parents and family members. Your graduation this evening is due also to their support. I wish you all the very best in your future. God bless you all. Congratulations.
Now let's meet our salutatorian, Mateo Vallejo.
Thank you for that glorious round of applause that I assume everyone watching just participated in. As you know, this year our graduation ceremony resembles Netflix in the fact that instead of driving here, you can enjoy watching in the comfort of your own home. Now, of course, most of us, if not all, would rather be at Bobby Lackey Stadium, under the lights as we have all imagined every time we thought of this day. However, maybe we should consider the positive and think about how the entertainment industry has improved so much that real-life scenarios like graduation are now being turned into movies. In all seriousness, I would like to thank everyone at WISD who is making this virtual graduation possible. We would all rather have a glass half full than a glass fully empty. I am Mateo Vallejo, which is something I should have said beforehand. I stand here with the honor of being the salutatorian of the class of 2020. For these few minutes, I have been given the gift of addressing all of you on behalf of the entire senior class. I have a feeling that I know just what they would want to say. To my mother, thank you for all the lessons you have brought into my life, for the corrections you made on my homework, for the suggestions on my essays. Thank you for always making my education in life and school a priority for you. Thank you to all the mothers of the class of 2020. To my father, thank you for your words of wisdom, for your perspective on all my problems, for your lessons on how a man cares for others and helps those in need. Thank you for always teaching me and giving me a reference point of who I want to be in this world. Thank you to all the fathers of the class of 2020. To my sisters, thank you for being older than me and constantly showing me what not to do, for driving me so crazy that I forced myself to learn on my own, for making me do everything you wanted me to do, even though you have fully functioning legs to do it yourself. Thank you for keeping me humble and strong. Thank you to all the siblings of the class of 2020. To my grandparents and my family, thank you for your endless support, for your insight on any issues I had, for your strength and your relationship with God, that in turn strengthened mine as well. Thank you for being in my life, because without you, my soul wouldn't be as strong as it is today. Thank you to all the grandparents and family of the class of 2020. To Mr. Ramos, Miss Ellis, Dr. Gamboa, Coach Mata, Mr. Fabella, and every teacher and staff member at Weslaco East High School. Thank you for listening when I decided to speak, for helping me grow in all aspects of life, for providing everything you know on the topics I discussed with you. Thank you for making me want to be better, and thank you for giving me the tools to do so. Thank you to all the teachers and staff who helped the class of 2020. To Jaslyn, John, Other John, Brian, Ricky, the UNO squad, the Chem squad, and Silver. Thank you for being there, for filling my days with smiles and laughter. Thank you for being amazing friends. Thank you to all the friends of the class of 2020. Now here I have a mirror. You may see this mirror as another object you pass by every day, but I believe that a mirror is perhaps one of the greatest tools humanity has ever created. Now I know that's a bold statement, but hear me out. A mirror is a tool that helps us all see something that is perhaps one of the most difficult things to see. A mirror helps us see ourselves. A mirror helps us see ourselves in the world's perspective instead of our own. Now this would be great if most of us weren't using this mirror in the wrong way. A lot of us look in a mirror and the first thing we see is the few pimples on our face, the lines under our eyes, or even that one strand of hair that is going rogue. We're supposed to be looking at the world's perspective of ourselves, and personally, I don't walk around looking at what's wrong with everyone else. Why should you look in a mirror and focus on what's wrong about you? As I walk the hallways of different campuses for the 13 years I have been enrolled in the Weslaco Independent School District, I have seen all of you. I have seen the greatness in you all. I have seen how most of us stress about the test we have next period. I have seen how most of us have felt depressed because juggling our lives and school become too much. I have seen these reflections of all of us in far worse situations than I could have ever imagined. I have seen students get grades that they wish were higher, but they don't allow their motivation to ever falter. I have seen the entire student body study harder as tests became more rigorous. I have seen how you all possess the determination and motivation to jump over those hurdles and wear the cap and gowns you have today. You have all done and gone through so much to get where you are today. Not everyone can graduate high school. Not everyone can graduate with honors, and not everyone can graduate in the top 25. I hope you all can look in the mirror and see the power, intelligence, and will that is inside you all. I hope you all can see what I see. Now, a mirror can do something else that is pretty special. A mirror can show what is behind you. A mirror can help you reflect. When your name is called today, reflect on lunches you've had with your friends. Reflect on the field trips and movies in elementary school. Reflect on the countless inside jokes. Reflect on the jokes you've made with your teachers. Reflect on how much you've changed. Reflect on how much you've done so that everyone will see that you made it. Every moment in life is mortal. Moments don't have immortality in time. Our seconds come and go, and all we can do is look at a mirror to see the moments behind us. We've had many great times at East. We've cherished the feeling of seeing our friends as we walk into class. We've cherished our time with teachers that have mentored us and talked to us when we needed them. While COVID-19 cut our time short, the resilience I know each and every one of you have has helped us prevail. The class of 2020 is strong, and we can never be stopped. I'd like to end off with a poem that I think truly applies to every graduate. It is called Our Greatest Fear by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. To the class of 2020, look into the mirror and see that you are powerful beyond measure. Because I know after today, your presence will change the world. Thank you.
Before we meet our graduates, let's hear from the valedictorian, Silvestre Ramirez.
Hello, my name is Silvestre Gonzalo Ramirez Jr., and I'm your Weslaco East valedictorian class of 2020. I never imagined I would be within the top of my class. I'm usually the student that prefers to take an exam over presenting in front of class, so you might have guessed that this isn't my cup of tea. But I will do my best to share some ideas I think are important to us. Today, my message is about memories and opportunities. 2020 has been filled with many unfortunate events, such as Kobe Bryant's death, the wildfires in Australia, and the recent coronavirus that has affected each one of us. We no longer have a senior walk, a prom, yell competitions, or even a graduation. Although we aren't able to stand next to each other for graduation, celebrate with the loved ones around us. We have to reflect on the good moments and have a positive mentality for our future opportunities. I want to start off by thanking the hardest working person I know, my father. From working in the fields as a kid to having his own home construction business, my father has truly experienced the American dream. My father has always stayed composed and accepted responsibility. Due to this, it has made him an amazing individual and father figure. I realize that opportunities come from learning how to be like him. My mom, who is responsible for nurturing me into a hardworking student. I remember my mom spending countless hours with me on my timetables and making sure I had them memorized. My mom was not only my greatest teacher, but she was also a loving mother. From packing me a sandwich every morning to listening to all my problems in high school, my mom was always there for me. This has provided the opportunity to learn how to care for others. Now I want to thank my sister Daisy. She has always believed in me more than I have believed in myself. In middle school, she believed that I was going to graduate at the top of my class in high school, and I always told her that she was crazy. I remember that she had my schedule prepared from freshman year to senior year before I even started high school. So I want to thank my amazing sister for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself. You see, there will be people in our lives that create the opportunity to be better than we ever imagined. Lastly, I want to thank my little brother Moses. One of the happiest and greatest moments in my life was when I found out that I was going to have a little brother. From tricking him to thinking that he's playing Madden with me on my Xbox to helping with his 4th grade homework. I'm forever grateful to have such an amazing little brother. But Moses is also a reminder that we all have the opportunity to be a role model to others. My family deserves to be recognized more than me because I wouldn't be here without them and all the opportunities they have provided. Next up, I've had friends that have stuck by me and been there for me since the beginning to the end of high school. Those memories we have with our friends are very special. Saul, who was the first friend I ever had and the only person I talked to during my freshman year. I remember sitting behind him in pre-biology class. Every day he would tell me that he was going to get a higher grade than me on an assignment. Sadly, Saul never got to experience that moment. John Miller was always there for me in high school. John is the nicest person that I met in high school. If he ever saw a teacher that needed help, he would run across the hall to help that teacher, no matter how far the teacher was from him. If you ever met John, you would know that he's super creative and interesting. He could look at the most uninteresting object and boring object in the world and still be able to develop 100 different stories about the object in a second. Anthony is another friend that always made me laugh. I would never forget the day in human geography when he guessed an entire AP test and got the highest grade in class. Ms. Valdez didn't believe him no matter how many times Anthony told her that he guessed on the test. As many of you know, Joel is an extrovert and outgoing individual, which I appreciate greatly. He motivated me to join BPA, which I would have never signed up for on my own. But I'm glad that I signed up for BPA because I made many great memories with both my teachers and friends. I will never forget the day that Joel signed me up for clubs without even telling me. If it wasn't for Joel, I wouldn't have joined any clubs my senior year, which I would have regretted deeply. Mateo is one of the smartest persons that I have met in my life, and I'm grateful to call him my friend. He was always there for me whenever I needed advice, and he seemed to have all the answers to my questions. He has filled my life with moments of joy and happiness that I will never forget. Furthermore, I know that he is going to do great things in life, and I believe that he can become the future president of the United States. Lastly, I want to thank my friends that I have known since elementary and middle school: Andy, Ethan, Chris, Gabriel, and Joseph. They have all filled my life with memorable experiences that I will never forget, and they are always there for me even when it's 4:30 in the morning. Now I want to thank the teachers who have made my years in high school truly great and memorable. Mr. and Mrs. Ramos for being the greatest English teachers I have ever had. The greatest days in Mr. Ramos' class were when we would spend an entire day analyzing one page of the Scarlet Letter. He made me appreciate literature much more. Miss Ramos was always there for me whenever I needed help with my college and scholarship essays, and I don't think I will ever have the chance to repay her back for all she has done for me. Mr. Halomo is another great teacher that I had. I don't know how, but I ended up taking his class for 3 years, and I don't regret that decision at all. He is the reason why I'm going to major in computer science at UT Austin. From creating some of the most random words in class to being Java Claus at Christmas, I will never forget my amazing experience in Mr. Halomo's class. Now I would like to introduce my favorite history teacher, Ms. Christensen. I always admired the amount of work that Ms. Christensen put into her class. Furthermore, I'm going to miss the rock music that she would play during class. The best days were when she would sing along to the song out loud. One of the most stressful experiences in her class were when we had to write DBQs. No matter how much I tried to connect the documents together, I always seemed to be missing the larger picture. But luckily, Ms. Christensen was there to help me whenever I needed it. Last but not least, I would like to thank the GOAT of Weslaco East High School, Mr. Cruz. If you had a question about absolutely anything, Mr. Cruz always had the answer. More importantly, Mr. Cruz knew how to connect with each one of his students, even the ones that were most shy. He would always come up to me and talk to me about video games or how I was doing, which I appreciated greatly. What I'm going to miss most about Mr. Cruz's class are his brisket burgers. I never knew I liked brisket burgers, so I tried his, and I still dream to this day of eating one more. Let me give you a couple of examples that made many of our experiences at Weslaco East memorable. If you had Mr. Cruz, you probably all remember doing karaoke in his class. Everyone was singing their hearts out and having a great time. Or the time where we had to run up and down the stairs to Miss Hibernella's class to see how much horsepower we had. Sadly, it made me realize how out of shape I was. One moment that we can all remember is when Gilbert scored the game-winning field goal this year to beat Weslaco High in the fourth quarter. I still go back and watch that field goal to this day. As our high school slowly comes to an end, many new opportunities are going to open up for us. We are each going to find our own purpose in life, and it might take some of us longer or shorter to discover it. The world is filled with many opportunities one can ever imagine. Once we discover our purpose in life and follow it, happiness will always come as a byproduct. So I hope we all find our own purpose in life so we can be en route for our own pursuit of happiness. Some of us are going to go on to become lawyers in Austin. Others will be educators to their students. Or we might even have someone become the next Ninja or David Dobrik, entertaining millions of people on the internet. The future has endless possibilities,
Let us be aware of the many changes and challenges that we might face along the road. Let our future endeavors be grand, for we are ever-changing individuals. Don't let change stop you from pursuing your goal. Change is necessary when evolving into a better person. I want to wish you all good luck on your future endeavors. Thank you for making my time at Weslaco East memorable.
And now our graduates from Weslaco East High School. We will start with our top 25, followed by students who earned an associate's degree.
Ranked number 25, America Torres Mazariegos, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society. Ranked number 24, Javier Esquivel, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society. Ranked number 23, Adrian Mendoza, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 22, Aitza Roque, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society. Ranked number 21, Kylie Diaz, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 20, Jamie Tanguma, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 19, Caroline Espinosa, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society, and Associate's Degree Candidate. Ranked number 18, Damaris Mora, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, National Honor Society. Ranked number 17, Joel Alanis, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Ranked number 16, Gabriel Corona, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, National Honor Society, and Associate's Degree Candidate. Ranked number 15, Victoria Ortiz, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, National Honor Society, and Associate's Degree Candidate. Ranked number 14, Natalie Rodriguez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 13, Ricardo Rios, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 12, Nathaniel Almaguer, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society, and Associate's Degree Candidate. Ranked number 11, Berenice Colorado Vargas, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, National Honor Society. Ranked number 10, Mario Trevino, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 9, Jaime Vasquez, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 8, Joel Ramos, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 7, Kayla Martinez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 6, Amanda Cabrera, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society. Ranked number 5, Angie Escalon, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 4, Cassandra Galnades, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Ranked number 3, Victoria Guerrero, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society, and Associate's Degree Candidate. And your salutatorian, ranked number 2, Mateo Vallejo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. The valedictorian for the 2020 Weslaco East High School graduating class, ranked number 1, Sylvester Ramirez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Brianna Angeline Arriaga, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar. Associate's Degree Candidate, Abel Noé Ayala, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate. Associate's Degree Candidate, Matthew Javier Cáceres, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Associate's Degree Candidate, Sherlyn Arleth de Alva, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Raylyn Faye Delgado, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Zulema Delgado, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Associate's Degree, Ashley Marie Elizondo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Miguel Eduardo Garza, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Delina Itzel Gonzalez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Associate's Degree Candidate, Jaslyn Lee Gonzalez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Crystal Bonilu Gracia, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Saul Asael Hernandez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Associate's Degree Candidate, Alyssa Marie Medina, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Joe Louis Mena, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Luis Michael Mendoza, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Anthony Ortiz, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Associate's Degree Candidate, Valeria Itzel Palomo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Audrey Marie Riojas, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Jaylyn Rodriguez, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate. Associate's Degree Candidate, Rosemary Rojo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Desiree Marie Sanchez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Juan Manuel Villagomez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, Candidate, and National Honor Society. Associate's Degree Candidate, Jeffrey Villanueva, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate, Jared Aguilera. Graduate, Cassandra Garza. Graduate, April Granados. Graduate, Isabella Guzman. Graduate, Jennifer Lopez. Graduate, Darius Mendoza. Graduate, Ramiro Acuña. DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate, Alma Aguilar, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Rachel Aguilar, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Daniel Aguirre, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Amy Alanis, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Cesar Alanis Hernandez, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brianna Alanis, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and a National Honor Society. Graduate Mark Alanis, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Brianna Alcantar, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Joan Alfaro, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jose Luis Almazan, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate.
Graduate Hector Alvarado, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate David Almaral, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Erlinda Amaya, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Yahaida Ambris, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate John Animas, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Fabian Aranda, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Alejandro Arevalo, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Angel Ariasola, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Angela Asuses, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Shorlyn Avendano, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Anisha Avila, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ian Ayala.
Graduate Victoria Ayala, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Cruz Balderas.
Graduate Josue Balderas Gutierrez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Candidate.
Graduate Fernando Barbosa, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jose Barrientos, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Araceli Bautista, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jonathan Basaldua, RGV Lead.
Graduate Damon Becerra, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Emily Beltran, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jason Beltran, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Caitlin Benavides, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Nathaniel Benitez.
Graduate Yaresi Bernal, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Benjamin Bravo, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate McKinley Brigham, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Arisbeth Bruno, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Lexi Burgos, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Arath Bustos, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Joshua Caballero, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Nicole Caballero, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Citlatli Campos, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Alicia Cantu, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Bobby Cantu, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Presley Cantu, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Segundo Cantu, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Daisy Cardenas, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Randy Cardosa, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Brandon Carrasco, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jacob Carrasco, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jose Carrillo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Karen Carizales, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ashley Casanova, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Mia Casanova, RGV Lead Candidate.
Graduate Chloe Casares, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Emanuel Castañeda, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Isaac Castañeda, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Daniel Castillo, Honor Graduate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Dominic Castillo, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jocelyn Castillo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Leisha Castillo, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Michael Castillo, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Ingrid Castillo Perez.
Graduate Gabriela Castro, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Analisa Cavazos, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Jorge Cavazos, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Karen Casares, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jasmine Cervantes Lopez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Nicolas Chapa, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Cesar Chavarria, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Emmanuel Chavez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jesus Chavez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Emily Contreras, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Maxine Cordova, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Isaac Coronado, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jimmy Coronado, RGV Lead.
Graduate Jose Cortez, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Gabriel Covarrubias, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Dailin Cuellar, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Judy Cuellar, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Odalis Cuellar, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Valeria Cuenca, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Lisbeth Cuenca Gonzalez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Justin Cuevas, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Evangelina Damien Oseguera.
Graduate Daniel Davila, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Kayla De La Paz, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jacqueline De La Peña, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Joshua De La Rosa, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Kayla De La Rosa, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Darwin De Leon Salazar, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alberto de los Santos, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jimmy Delgadillo, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Shania Diaz, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Irving Diaz Cobos, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Elizabeth Dueñas Perez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Adeli Dueñas, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ana Marie Elizondo, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Andrea Elizondo, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Giovanna Elizondo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Jasmine Escobedo, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Julissa Espinosa, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Araceli Exinia, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Dominic Fajardo, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Zacarias Fajardo, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Savannah Farias, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Raven Figueroa, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Stephanie Figueroa, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Abel Fiscal, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Anaí Flores, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Joseph Flores, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Ricky Flores, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Ethan Fonseca, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Axel Fuentes, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Cynthia Fuentes.
Graduate Jennifer Gallegos, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Osvaldo Gallegos, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Brando Galvan, RGV Lead Candidate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jose Luis Gamez, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Lizette Garces, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Ramiro Garces, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brandy Garcia, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Carlos Adrian Garcia, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Carlos Javier Garcia, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Christian Garcia, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Deborah Garcia. Graduate Ishvari Garcia, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jasmine Garcia.
Graduate Nathaniel Garcia.
Graduate Raimundo Garcia, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Rihanna Garcia, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Rocio Garcia, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Sabrina Garcia, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Tessie Garcia, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Ashley Garcia Villafuerte, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alexis Garza, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Fernando Garza, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Gilberto Garza, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Haley Garza, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Irmanelila Garza, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Russell Garza, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jose Gasca, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Melissa Gatica, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brian Gomez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jacob Gomez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Joaquin Gomez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Rodrigo Gomez Gomez, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Evelyn Gonzalez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Mia Gonzalez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Adriana Gonzalez, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Damian Gonzalez.
Graduate Jesse James Gonzalez.
Graduate Joshua Gonzalez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Juan Gonzalez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Victor Gonzalez.
Graduate Yulisa Gracia Garcia, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Michael Gregorio, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Samantha Guajardo, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate and National Honor Society.
Graduate Daniela Guerra, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Robin Guerra, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Hope Guerrero, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jamie Guillen Hernandez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Araceli Gutierrez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Michael Gutierrez, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Tamara Gutierrez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Nayeli Gutierrez Gomez, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brisa Guzman, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Graduate Alyssa Hernandez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Esperanza Hernandez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Isaiah Hernandez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jasmine Hernandez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Liza Hernandez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brandon Herrera, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Gustavo Herrera, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Linda Herrera, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jacqueline Hinojosa, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alejandro Huerta, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jesus Huerta, Honor Graduate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Gabriela Hurtado Elizondo, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Pablo Ibanez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Montserrat Jaramillo, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Andres Hasso, RGV Lead Candidate.
Graduate Nadalyn Hassel, Honor Graduate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brenda Jimenez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Frida Jimenez, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Antoniela Lara, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Briseida Lara, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Maria Lara, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Emiliano Larios, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Oscar Ledesma Torres, DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Alfonso Loera.
Graduate Angel Longoria.
Graduate Lenny Longoria, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Nalani Longoria, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Aurora Lopez Evelyn, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jaylene Lopez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jonathan Lopez, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Nathan Lopez, DLA Scholar. Graduate Odalis Lopez.
Graduate Ron Lopez Adame, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jesus Lozano Cazares, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ana Karen Lugo, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Abigail Luna, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brandon Luna, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jesus Macias, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Carolina Maciel, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Caitlin Madrigal, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Abran Maldonado, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Ricardo Marquez, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Moises Marroquin, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Saul Martel, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alexis Martinez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Alfredo Martinez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Brian Martinez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Christian Martinez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Clarissa Martinez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Courtney Martinez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Fidel Martinez, RGV Lead.
Graduate Isai Martinez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Joyce Martinez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Juan Diego Martinez, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Juan Pablo Martinez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ricardo Martinez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Roberto Martinez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jennifer Martinez Vasquez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Carlo Mata, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Justice Mata, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Rhonda Medeles, DLA Scholar. Graduate Vicente Mejia, RGV Lead.
Graduate Christian Mendez, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Javier Mendoza, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate John Miller, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Ana Mireles, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Enedina Mireles, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Carlos Molina, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Luz Monjarras, RGV Lead candidate and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Jonathan Monreal, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Adriana Moreno, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Genevieve Morin, RGV Lead candidate and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Erwin Morin, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Bobby Moron, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Hector Muniz, RGV Lead candidate and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Arlis Munoz, RGV Lead candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Gustavo Munoz, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Julia Najera, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Jose Neira Ramirez.
Graduate Aleix Ocañas, RGV Lead candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society. Graduate Isaac Olvera, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Omar Olvera, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Prisciliano Olvera Reyes, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Juan Ontiveros.
Graduate Samantha Ontiveros, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Matthew Ortega, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Emilio Ortiz, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Esmeralda Ortiz, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Ernesto Osorio.
Graduate Jacob Palomino, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Lucio Peña, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Miguel Peña, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ashley Pequeño, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Sarah Pequeño, RGV Lead candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Alejandro Perales, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Denise Perales, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Alexis Perez, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Alondra Perez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate America Perez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Andrea Perez, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Angel Perez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate DeAndre Perez.
Graduate Jose Perez, RGV Lead candidate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ray Perez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate and National Honor Society. Graduate Diana Picasso Nava, Honor Graduate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Antonio Ponce, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Elizabeth Ponce, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Steve Ponce, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar. Graduate David Prieto, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Cassandra Puente, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Giovanni Quintana. Graduate Denise Ramirez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Eddie Ramirez, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Maria Ramirez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Rosalba Ramirez, DLA Scholar candidate.
Graduate Mia Ramos, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Oscar Ramos, Oscar is a 3-year graduate.
Graduate Beata Ramos, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Rolando Ramos de Leon, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Josue Rangel, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jaciel Renteria, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jesse Resendez, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Kaylin Resendez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Catalina Reyes, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Caitlin Reyes, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Luis Reyes, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Osvaldo Reyes, RGV Lead.
Graduate Daniela Rico, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Leslie Rincon, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alejandro Rios. Graduate Jesus Rivera Gomez, RGV Lead Candidate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alberto Rodriguez, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar. Graduate Anthony Rodriguez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Daniel Rodriguez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Juan Rodriguez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Larissa Rodriguez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Leah Rodriguez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Mario Rodriguez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Miguel Rodriguez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Rene Rodriguez, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Rhonda Rodriguez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Samantha Rodriguez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Valentin Rodriguez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Maria Rodriguez Torres, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brianna Rojas, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Valerie Romero, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate April Rosales, DLA Scholar Candidate and National Honor Society.
Graduate Michelle Roulette, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Eliana Ruiz, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate. Graduate Juan Sainz, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Keanu Sainz, RGV Lead, Candidate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Marcos Salas, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Samantha Salazar, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Cici Salazar Zamorano, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Matthew Saldaña, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Julia Saldivar, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Dwayne Salinas, 3-year graduate.
Graduate Gisela Salinas, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Crystal Salinas, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Ryan Salinas, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Abigail Sanchez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar, Candidate.
Graduate Juan Sanchez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Bianca Sandoval, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Christian Santos, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Amber Saucedo, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Gustavo Serna, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Ashley Serrano, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Felix Servin, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Daphne Soler, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Anton Solis, Honor Graduate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jeffrey Sosa, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Roy Tames, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jimena Tames, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Janelle Tanguma, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Jaime Tijerina.
Graduate Jose Torres, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Leanne Torres.
Graduate Rene Torres, RGV Lead, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Saul Torres, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Yulitza Torres Alvarado, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Carol Tovar, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Eduardo Tovar, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Karina Tovar, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Eduardo Trevino, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Jared Trevino, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Kennedy Trevino, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Leonardo Trevino, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Pedro Trevino, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Valeria Uriza, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Agustin Valadez, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Kayla Valdez Mares, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, National Honor Society.
Graduate Giovanna Valdez, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Felix Vargas, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar, National Honor Society.
Graduate Albertano Vasquez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brianda Vasquez, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Ramsey Vasquez, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Alma Vasquez, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brendali Vasquez Gutierrez, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Abian Vega, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Tabitha Vega, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Karen Vega Coronado, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alex Vela, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Kishla Vela, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Madeline Vela, RGV Lead, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Marcos Vela, RGV Lead.
Graduate Angel Vidales Casares, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Vianney Vieira, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Carissa Villalon, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jasmine Villanueva, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jennifer Villanueva, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Liana Villanueva, RGV Lead Candidate, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Alyssa Villarreal, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society.
Graduate Brianna Villarreal, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, DLA Scholar Candidate, and National Honor Society. Graduate Norma G. Zamaripa, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Beatrice Zambrano, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Brianna Zambrano, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jayla Zamora, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Nicole Zamora, RGV Lead Candidate and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Jose Zarate, DLA Scholar.
Graduate Inali Zavala, DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Nathan Savala, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Desiree Sertuche, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Graduate Ashley Zuniga, RGV Lead, Honor Graduate, and DLA Scholar.
Graduate Eleazar Zuniga, RGV Lead and DLA Scholar Candidate.
Congratulations, graduates. Let's meet our next speaker, Angie Escalon, who is your senior class president.
Hello and good evening, parents, relatives, teachers, and graduates. My name is Angie Escalon, and I'm the senior class president. This was not how I was mentally preparing myself when I first heard I would be delivering a speech at our graduation ceremony. I thought I was going to be able to stand on that podium and be able to look at my fellow graduates in front of me and hear our parents cheer as loud as they could. I wanted to hear noisemakers and even those pots and pans from the stands sounding loud and proud. However, I'm staring at a camera and imagining everyone through the screen, and I hope everyone is safe and sound. Throughout our many years of school, starting from having cupcake parties, naps, and snack time in kindergarten, to making new friends, going to school dances, and trying out new clubs and sports once we got to middle school, to long afternoons for clubs, events, and sports in high school. Not to mention the nights of stress before every test and long-awaited AP exams, as well as having to make decisions of going to that party or staying to finish your project. But for every stress-filled moment, nights where we were able to hear our Wildcat Regiment, our cheerleaders, parents, and graduates at every football game, and don't forget our senior class officers and sponsors who set up and worked at every home game in the concession stands to fundraise. These are all the things we will miss. Whether my fellow graduates continue their education in college or university, go directly into the workforce, or join the military, remember to thank those who helped you get where you are and to always be true to yourself. We have learned many things at our time at Weslaco East, and we have made lifelong friends and mentors. Our parents have played a major role in our lives, whether it was driving us to school early and late after every school activity, or bringing us our favorite food and gifts to school on special days, as well as encouraging us when we feel down. Solo quiero decir que nuestros padres han sido una parte esencial en nuestras vidas. Si no era manejar en la mañana o el anochecer para cada actividad escolar, o traernos nuestra comida favorita y regalos en cada ocasión especial, y cómo olvidar que nos animaron cada vez que nos sentíamos triste. De parte de mi clase, gracias. My fellow graduates, the class of 2020, we made it. Best of luck, but Winnie the Pooh put my feelings into words. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Thank you.
And now a tribute video in your honor. Congratulations, class of 2020. Class of 2020, here's your fight song one more time.